My name is Dr. David Allen, and I've been working in the field of addiction for over 40 years. Khalil, it's such a wonderful opportunity to talk with you today.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a 57-year-old father of 4. I have 4 grandchildren, and I love Christ. And at this point in my life, I'm really glad that I have a relationship with Christ. I mean, I have a brother that loves me, and those are the ways that I define myself. I mean, I'm a person that's in a recovery process. I actually will be celebrating 22 years without a drink or a drug.
So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Khalil, how did you get into drugs?
As a child, even though I had a brother, I was mostly an only child in the sense that my brother was not there a lot, so I ended up being by myself a lot.
What did loneliness feel like?
Emptiness, like a hole in my soul.
Hole in your soul.
It's like there was always something that was missing. Always, no matter what I did, there was always something that I just couldn't get enough of anything. I didn't feel complete.
And when you started drugs, did that change?
Well, I thought for a while that it changed. My memory is not as good as it's been. There's a number of accidents that's kind of did a little trauma to the brain. But I'm saying that to say that I really, really, really don't remember, but I can relate things and give assumptions on how it must have been.
What were your drugs of choice?
That's another challenging thing. I don't really believe that I had a choice. However, if I had money at one point, I would go directly to get heroin. Then at another point, I would do alcohol. Then at another point, I would do marijuana. At another point, depending on where I was at, depending on the lifestyle that I was living, depending on the environment of the people that I associated with, was which drug I went to first. I always described it as a primary drug of addiction. My primary drug of addiction was alcohol.
But it seemed as if that once you started on drugs, that seemed to comfort your heart or take away some of the loneliness.
Well, I think that for a minute, but I think that it gave me courage to be around people and it would mask the loneliness. I don't think it took anything except for freedom to live in a more positive way.
So you always felt out of place?
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that.
That's lonely. Now, when you found drugs, did it help?
The drug itself made me feel like I was something or somebody. I didn't have to be as isolated by myself.
The drug made you feel like you were somebody?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, how did you get to the point then when you realized the drug which made you feel like somebody was now destroying you?
Going back and forth to jail made me realize that something had to be wrong somewhere. And one of those times I was locked up, I think I was doing about 6 months in St. Louis, Missouri, and I came to a realization that, wow, maybe if I changed my lifestyle, maybe things could get better. Now, the thing is I didn't totally see drugs as the problem. Well, I seen heroin as the problem, but I didn't see alcohol because I hadn't identified alcohol as a drug.
Khalil, what made you stop and say, look, this life is not for me?
Oh, man. Looking in my daughter's eyes, I seen something, I guess love, if you want to use a word. I don't know if that's the appropriate word for it, but what I seen is a connection that I did not want to be separate from. I understand that the disease of addiction itself is not necessarily about the drugs. I had got involved in...
Wait, let's talk about that.
Okay.
The disease of addiction is not about the drugs. What's the disease about?
Well, it's about using something outside of yourself to make yourself feel good, better, or different. The disease of addiction on a real spiritual level, I acted like I was God. I moved something else in the place of God to give me the power and strength that only God could give me.
Then what happened?
Well, in which respect?
Did you want to get some treatment for the addictive?
I wanted to stop using. There had to be a different way. There had to be another way, and I knew that I didn't know it. and I couldn't do it on my own.
So it's interesting. You're saying that the drug is kind of like a god.
No, definitely, without a
You know,
doubt.
Scott Peck, before he died, said that the modern idols are the addictions. So you're kind of backing up what he said.
Oh, without a doubt.
That drugs are idols.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, it has
Drugs
its
are
own,
little gods.
It has its own religion. It has its own rituals. It has its own, actually, its own whole subculture and ritualistic around it. I mean, depending on the drugs. When I was using heroin, I mean, there was a whole ritual that was associated with it. I mean, even with alcohol, there's a ritual. With all of them, there's a ritual. When I got sad, when I was happy, I may have said a prayer. I may have called on the name of a God, but when I felt bad and I needed anything and any type of celebratory, I called on the drug, and the drug is what I used.
I see. So really, an addiction treatment center, idol smashers.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that.
We're breaking idols.
Yes, we are.
Boy, that's
Yes, we
heavy.
are. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And those idols are strong.
Oh, without a doubt. And oftentimes the person that's worshiping and honoring them don't really know that they are idols.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the number one symptom in the disease of addiction is denial. And for me, denial was not even knowing I'm lying to myself. I was a heroin addict. Primarily, I mean, all of the rest of the drugs, I was an addict. But one of the things, I used drugs every single day. Didn't care what I did in order to get it, and thought that I was in charge. On one level, I thought I was in charge, and another level, I was sad. But at the same time, I thought that I was in charge. I thought that there was nothing. If I looked at you, and you came near me, and you didn't use drugs, something was wrong with you.
Right. So heroin was your god.
Yes, it was. It was the first God that I acknowledged outside of the
And you
title
worshiped
God.
heroin.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I tell you, I
How
had.
did you worship heroin?
Well, that's a good question. When I look at the worship, I can say that I had a ritual associated with it. I mean, there was
What's the ritual?
A ritual. There were certain things that I did before I got the drug. There were certain things I did when I got the drugs, and there were certain things that I did after I had the drug. I mean, in order to get the drug, in order to use the drug, then you had to have the paraphernalia of the drugs, and there was a whole ritual associated with getting the paraphernalia. You know, you had to know
It's
who
like
the
the mass,
guy
eh?
was. Yeah, exactly. Going to make salad, any of those type of things that you would associate with it, there were many rituals involved, depending on the drug. And if you didn't have one of the places or one of the things in the ritual, you didn't feel like you was doing it right. If I didn't have a pack of cigarettes, when I went and shot the heroin itself, then I felt half empty, and the heroin wasn't doing its total job. It was like, not just that, it's the feeling that you get chasing the feeling. It's not so much just the drug itself.
Sorry, it's not the feeling, it's a feeling you get chasing the feeling. Explain.
Well, I felt empty in the beginning. I get excited to go chase the drug. I make a hustle. I take somebody's money. I snatch a pocketbook. I rob somebody. In that feeling, there's a level of excitement. I go on the corner to cop the drug. I duck the police. There's a level of excitement in it. I have the drug in my hand. The police drive by. I feel excited, like I've gotten over. There's a whole ritual that's associated with it, you know?
So you're saying then that when you have a drug problem, it's like a possession?
I mean, I did some terrifying and horrendous things that only a person that's possessed by something, to use the term demonic, would do. Under the influence of the drug, and not always under the influence, but under the influence of the obsession of the drug. To get the drug, I would do things.
Like what?
One of the things that I remember the most, that hurts me the most, is I remember one time when my mother was getting off the bus. It was in the dead of winter. There was ice on the ground. She had bags in her hand. She had to walk to the car. The car was about a block away. I was about a block away. I was going to buy some drugs. I seen her and acted like I didn't know her, so I could go get the drugs. I've stole things that my mother had to actually pay for. And one time, actually, the person that not the person that I stole it from, but one of the people that was involved actually gave the property back. And then I had to look in my mother's eyes, and she knew that I lied.
How do you feel knowing that you stole from your mother?
I don't feel good. I mean, fortunately, I've done a whole lot of work in that area, and actually today I have, I'm the only person in the family that have my mother's bank account numbers with over $30,000 in it. So the feeling has passed on what I really felt, and the relationship's amended. But at the same time, when I think about those things, I mean, I beat my wife up when she was 8 months pregnant, man.
You beat your wife?
Yeah, when she was 8 months pregnant with my oldest daughter. I mean, that's...
When you beat her at 8 months, you must have been on drugs.
Oh, yeah. Because of the drug and the influence of the drug and the image that I was attempting to portray, I couldn't show nobody how I felt. I don't feel good telling you that now. It's something that I've dealt with.
What made you stop?
I didn't like how I was living. It got to a point where I couldn't control and run my own life. Well, it was like that a while, but I realized it. And once I really, really realized it, then I knew it was something I had to do different. I mean, there were things that motivated for me to stop. There were things in my life that were going on that kind of made me say, man, if you want to do something about this, you need to change your life up. You know, I was 30-some-odd years old. I didn't own anything, hadn't owned anything, had nothing. I had no possessions that I had, no possessions that I owned. And I had a family that I said that I cared about. So I needed to do something different.
And you did what? You came into a program?
Here? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's the really interesting thing. When I talk about the disease of addiction, it was about addiction, but it wasn't about the drug usage. I had got involved in pornography, a whole lot of women and sexuality and a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't realize how devastating it was to my psychic. And I had started drinking energy drinks and root drinks and different things like that. And when I attempted to stop, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop none of it. I couldn't stop none of it. Now, at that same time, I had been working as a counselor for a lot of years. So I asked people for some help. And actually, the people that I asked for the help were some of the same people that I counseled, or some of the same people that I trained, or some of the same people that I sponsored through a 12-step network, and they began to help me.
Now, as you got into the therapy and the groups and the individual therapy, what about that helped you?
Well, the level of me being able to share how I felt. You know, some of those feelings, those lonely and those sad feelings that I had experienced, being able to talk about them from a whole nother level was actually helped me. It helped me be able to see who I was a whole lot clearer. Wow. I journaled also. I journaled. Pretty much I journaled almost every single, in fact, I have about 4 or 5 volumes of books that I've written from journals, and that along with doing the groups helped me become more comfortable in my own skin.
Khalil, you know, you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot. But one problem with addiction is that, periodically people relapse.
Mm-hmm.
Do you fear relapsing?
Not today. Because I know that God has promised me that as long as I do what I'm supposed to do, I'll be okay. I live on that promise. I know that God is faithful.
How does a person stop relapsing?
Well, I can tell you how I did it. I was able to believe in something that was greater than me, that was more powerful than me, that had love for me. And through that person, they showed me that it was possible. I began to imitate and emulate them.
And you do a wonderful job. Now, Khalil, you work with a lot of the men here. And what are 1 or 2 things that you find in your teaching or helping of the men that you find most important?
The power of forgiveness.
You know, as we talked, and I heard you say that as a little boy, you were very, very lonely.
Yes.
Out there now, there's so many little boys and girls so lonely.
Yes.
What can we do?
We keep doing it. We keep doing it. We keep demonstrating that power of love. We keep being that person or the image that they can imitate. We keep letting them know that it's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You can actually make some mistakes, and it's okay to make some mistakes.
May God give you special grace.
Thank you.
And peace.
Thank you.
In the days ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.